Hey, it's John Carlos. I'm here with
Eddie!
we're talking about the Bill and Ted movies. Conversation ran really long, so we are picking up from where our conversation last left off. We just finished talking about Excellent Adventure. Now we're gonna dive right on into Bogus Journey. Bogus Journey.
Yes.
Do
So,
you want to go
okay.
first? You want to go first? 'Cause I have a
Well, yeah, no, because I know you got a whole, yeah. No,
Okay.
just because I'm piggybacking on like something you were talking as far as time travel and
Okay.
all of that. None of it ever bothered me in the first movie. Bogus Journey, I have to say, the first time I ever saw it, I think I started somewhere in the middle. It was one of those things that seemed to be always on, like not even cable, but it seemed to be showing on like Saturday and Sunday afternoons on network television, like the afternoon movie or something like that. So I would like kind of like, go in and go out because I did not see it in the theater. And because I remember seeing the commercials for it, and they always showed the same thing, which was them playing Twister with Death, and just the foot in Bill's face, and going, "Oh!" Like that was how they were trying to sell the movie. And I don't know, something about it. Maybe it's because I was older, and I was already starting to kind of get my snob streak, but also maybe I just. I don't know. I wondered, is this really necessary? Like, I really, really liked the first movie, and some time has passed. Like, and so I just opted out, and I didn't see it for a couple years until it was on television. And I remember I don't remember the first time I saw it. I just remember I kept, I've seen it from the middle on, like kind of like uh, from them killing themselves, the evil us's killing, just regular Bill and Ted, on, and I usually checked out around Station, like when they first meet Station. But I remember the first time I tried to watch it from beginning to end, just out of curiosity, the beginning, I was like, maybe this is why I didn't want to see this. Because number one, it doesn't open. I mean, you get that fucking breakaway song with the opening and the beautiful visuals of the opening. And then the second one, it's just gonna like the future. And I was like, okay, number one, I missed the music. And then I saw the future, and it didn't look the same. It didn't look like the glorious 80s future. Now everybody's wearing foam. Everybody's wearing neon colors. And then I saw like all of these people, like two really ugly statues of Bill and Ted outside of like some school. And then you go in and you see all these people like sitting there. They've reinvented glasses to make them like referent. I'm just like, this, oh God. And then all the people in foam are seeing all these figures from history and from the future coming to like visit them and like educate them and everything. And that's when I started to think, oh my God, time travel is problematic. Because it's one thing to do it once to kind of like save destiny, like a caged story like that, like a contained story like that, makes sense to me because it's toward a single goal, all encompassing, but a single goal. This seemed to be happening on the regular, like on a daily basis, and it really bothered me because I was like, how do we know every one of these people that we keep bringing into these classrooms is going to be okay when they get back to their times? How do we know we're going to get them back to the regular times? And also, now that it's kind of common knowledge and we're pulling people from all over the place, it was totally setting up Face the Music for me. But how are we going to know that they're going to be safe? Like, how do we know that other people aren't going to try, oh, you know what? They get taken out of their time at this day, at this time, and they don't get returned until like 13 seconds later. So in 13 seconds, we can go there and we can kidnap their family, or we can, we can steal whatever it is that they invented, or their plans for what they invent, like whatever it is. And all I saw was problems. Even the return of Rufus, which we didn't get to talk much about George Carlin, but this was my first George Carlin ever with this franchise.
Me too.
Yeah, he was just Rufus to me for a long time. I didn't even know he did stand up. And so, but even him showing up, I was looking forward to, he's going to go back and he's going to find Bill and Ted. Until it's revealed at the end, that doesn't happen. And he doesn't even really interact with them as a guiding force. He really doesn't really do anything. Makes me think they had Carlin like for like a brief period of time. I don't know what the situation was, but it feels like I missed him. I was like, we got these components and we brought him back, but did we really use them? And again, this is all like within the first like 15 minutes of the movie.
And it's funny that you say you missed him, because if you really look at how much he's in Excellent Adventure, he's not really in it.
I know, but
doesn't he leave an impression?
He does. He really does.
He has a little monologue. He shows up and takes them to France, and then he shows up at the end. He has quite a one-on-one with Denomalos in this. you know, he chews a little bit more in that one scene, but yeah.
I just
Anyway, it
remember
sounds like
thinking,
I had none of those worries, by the way. You and I had very different reactions to this.
well, because I remember, because I was trying to like, back in the day when, I mean, some people still have satellite TV, and maybe people still watch movies this way, where you kind of like duck in the middle, or like the only way that happens now is like, you know, I've got my mom with me. If she's watching a movie or a TV show, and I just happen to like get home, like when she's in the middle of something and it looks interesting, I'll just kind of, you know, like lean in and watch. But it rarely happens that way. And so with streaming, it's so much easier to watch things from the beginning and see it like as a unit. But I remember that used to like kind of be the hook in for me, was like walking into my house and my sister, my father, or my mother were watching something, and I'd be like, oh, is this that thing that, you know, or what is this? And they would tell me, and I'd sit there and I'd watch it. And if I had any questions I could ask, we always could, that we were, you know, that kind of family, but we weren't like, shh. Or if we were, it was like, okay, I'll be quiet and I'll just wait, you know, for it to be explained in the movie. And so I had enough interest that I wanted to start it. So then when I finally started it, I was just kind of like, when are we going to get to because I kind of liked what I saw before, and I don't really like any of this. So I think I ducked out, and I didn't really see it in its entirety for a while. And I don't even, maybe it was in college when I finally saw it in its entirety, because all the art students were really into Bogus Journey, more so than Excellent Adventure. And I talked to them about why. Yeah. Because, I mean, and what I realized was, it was things I didn't even think about, because I wasn't really thinking filmmaking when I was, 13 or 14 when it got released. I just kind of thought, I like movies. Do I like this? But, you know, by the time I was like 18, 19, I did have more of a zest for cinematic process and everything like that. And I started looking at it as, oh my God, yeah, all of the production design and the costume design of like the dead versions of themselves, and all of the worlds, like they literally travel in so many like dimensions and even just like levels of reality, and every one of them has to look kind of at the same time authentic and like, but at the same time like recognizable and on sight, and also almost cartoonish. And it satisfies all of those things. And then of course, like, it's Kevin Yeager, right, who did like the special effects for like for the evil, you know, robotic thems, and for Station.
The Easter Bunny who looks like Chucky.
But
oh, see,
I thought about you during Bill's little boy nightmare.
Yeah.
I wondered if that was problematic for you with your Cabin in the Woods. We talked about our fears, and
a little bit. It wasn't enough to pull me out of the movie and give me problems,
okay.
but I did have a little like, But
like the rest of us.
Because I also acknowledge, like, it's okay. I'm watching a Bill and Ted movie, and I'm not so young that I can get scared from it. But I also like I'm in good hands. I'm in a Bill and Ted movie. It's gonna be fine. You don't need to be scared. But like,
see, and bunny. And I don't like the bunny because it's like an uncanny valley thing, because it looks not enough like a bunny and not enough like a person, but like some weird amorphous, and like the things
that's weird. That's worse to me.
No, exactly.
Should not be.
No, and it's not outright terrifying, but it's unsettling, and that's even worse.
Well, first of all, the fact that
in a great way,
as he's coming up the steps, you see it's practical, so you see it taking its final hops.
Mm-hmm.
And for something that you consider a puppet, the fact that it's actually like hopping into its frame, but also that close up of its face, like.
No, I don't like. Yeah. So no, I mean, I have to say also this particular most recent watch, I don't know. I mean, because I actually watched it twice. Like I watched these 3 movies just to watch them, and then you mentioned like wanting to do this, so I watched them again with notes. You know, because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget like some notable things that I wanted to bring up, maybe. But both times, I embraced it as warmly and realized, oh, I did see Bogus Journey, certainly the center section, quite a bit. Like when it was on, I watched it. It was usually from them being killed on, but but I remember watching it. But there are so many things that precede that. I mean, the future in the beginning, everything I complained about still kind of bothers me. but not enough to turn me off because I know there's so much good stuff that's like just around the corner. One of the things in particular is just like their interactions with the princesses and them talking about like, what was it? Our girlfriends are most chaste.
Girlfriends are most chaste. Yeah,
And
stay over.
Right. I love the joint proposal though, just laying the groundwork for, again, Face the Music and without knowing, you know. But and the heart rings, and then because one of the most effective things for me this particular viewing was again because it was really articulated to me how much I care about them and their interactions and them being decent to each other, and watching just what fucking douches their evil robot us's thems are with the princesses and everything like that, and them having to watch it, and then watching the princesses, like watching them be like dicks, just acting like, you know, douchey 13-year-old boys, like in there, just like and everything. I'm like, don't, it's like pushing all of these buttons for me that I'm just kind of like, I'm getting so angry. And also because they're getting hurt, the princesses are getting hurt, everything that is good and decent in this world is being dismantled. And it's probably not all about the movie. There's probably a lot of life spilling in there too. But then to watch the princesses take their cute little plastic heart rings off, their engagement rings, and throw them onto the carpet, and to see the effect that has on Bill and Ted, dead Bill and Ted. The world collapses. It's sad. It is so, I'm just like, no.
And also not just Bill and Ted reacting to the princess, but the princesses, so much of their reactions to evil Bill and Ted.
It's horrible.
It's one thing for Bill to be like, meh, but when Ted's just like, he's not even looking, he looks over his shoulder and goes, fine. Like that dismissive, like, whatever, fine.
They're really good at being douches too. Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
No, because I think he even does like a little shrug. Like, again, that douchey 13-year-old is kind of like, fine. Well, you know, and I'm just like, fuck, but you reckless, irresponsible pieces of shit. Oh.
It's the see ya that's over his shoulder. It's on the bed.
Right.
That extra, like, that nod. One of the things about them is that the fact that since they're programmed to be Bill and Ted, they are still Bill and Ted.
Yes.
so the intentions are all still there, but the words, and I love the fact that they don't ever hide who and what they are.
Yeah.
So they're still that's so one of my favorite exchanges in the movie, just because it's funny and it's so, again, it's the truth of it. They're not liars. What's gotten into you two? Well, you see, we used to be pussweeds, but now we're metal. So get over here and point out.
And the fact that they think they're funny, I think that's the biggest one of the biggest sins too. Is just like they think that they're so fucking cool. I hate that. I fucking hate that.
But they also love being around each other. Like there isn't as much of a bond. No, but there's still a duo that are like, well, let's bring some things together, and we're gonna play basketball with my fucking head. And
actually, there is one of my favorite Alex Winter moments where he's reaching for his own head in the trash.
There you go.
And I'm just like, that's why I love you, because you can do that.
This movie,
yes,
gives me. It allows Alex Winter a little more freedom to do what Alex Winter does.
Yeah,
and it gives me a little more, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. I forget the name of his show. I feel really bad. He had that little show on MTV that he did, that he like directed, and then I adore Freaked. Like Freaked is one of my favorites also. Have you ever seen it?
No.
You absolutely have to. He directed it. He stars in it, and it is. If you ever want to see like the flavor of his humor and what he can do, YouTube, watch some of the clips from his show, and then watch Freaked, because it's his complete control. Because I don't know the specifics I don't think I've ever heard him say like he didn't want to be an actor, but I think he went to New York. I think he went to NYU Film School, but he wanted to be a director.
Mm-hmm.
And like and it's interesting because for a guy who, even with Freaked, where he's starring in it, but he had so much interest in directing, and then even after Bogus Journey, like he directed the Napster documentary. He's directed documentary stuff, but like he hasn't really pursued acting. But even watching Face the Music, I'm like, why this guy just isn't on camera a whole lot more is just beyond me, because not only is he good, but he has something unique. I can't say that about every actor. But like there's only one Christopher Walken. There's only one Jeff Goldblum. There's only one like Al Pacino. And like, honestly, I can't think of very many other people who have with those hooded expressive eyes and that energy. Not a lot of people can be like, all right, there you go. Not everyone can
immediately accessible.
Yeah. I just love when they're holding Bill and Ted over the edge of the cliff, and they're like, guys, we love you. And I love Bill's like listening face. he's very camp. He's very exaggerated, and that to me is it wouldn't surprise me if I found out that like the scene where he's in his own personal hell and little Bill has to kiss his grandma, because I don't know if you know this, but he is the grandma.
My mind just blew up.
Alex Winter is grandma.
Oh my God.
But so process that for a moment. Between that and Freaked, like I know he loves to be in makeup. He loves to like really perform. And even all the other people at the table, they're all very exaggerated. And I'm like, if someone told me that like that was shot on a second unit and Alex Winter directed it, I would totally believe it. Because this almost feels like an Alex Winter directed scene. But yeah, that's him with the...
It's one of the most memorable moments of the movie too.
His eyes.
I mean, the second you said it, I totally see it even in my mind's eye, because again, it lives in my head.
Yeah. No, that's
I fucking love it. Also, just not to take anything away from him, because everything you've said is true about Alex Winter, but the little Bill, fucking just his big eyes and his tiny little voice.
Bogus.
Little
Ted is good, but little Bill. First of all, I love that it just seems like everyone gets the middle, like has a middle name with an S, and everyone's Granny S. Preston Esquire, whatever.
Yes.
And this is my daughter, Mary S. Preston Esquire.
I don't even know what Esquire means. What does it mean?
Now, I'm probably wrong. I always took it to mean the first.
Oh, okay.
Like, like my dad was John Elwood Jr. His father was John Elwood
Esquire.
And I hope I'm right, because I just like the idea of someone really like polishing up the fact that they don't have a junior, they don't have a third.
Yeah.
But Esquire.
Making it sound very very a top drawer. But
they each have a bullshitty thing. The other one being Ted Theodore Logan.
Logan, yeah.
Well, I know Theodore. Like it's not Ted Steve Logan. Like it's Ted and Theodore are the fucking same. Like I got it.
Which is another thing to back up what I totally already back up, like your theory about like Bill being like the slightly more
focused.
I don't know about serious, but focused and in charge. Or the guider of the two of them, the one to kind of like bring them back down to earth and everything, because Bill S. Preston Esquire does sound like something that Bill would come up with. Ted Theodore Logan sounds like something he came up with just to kind of like sound good alongside Bill.
Yeah, I need an extra thing too.
Right. Well, my full name's Theodore. Ted Theodore Logan, dude. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I can see it. I can hear them, the exchange right now. Because you brought up their evil thems killing them, I want to bring up the second F word, the F bomb that they drop, and I don't mean fuck. I actually really liked it, particularly when I saw it a little later in life again. Whenever I finally saw the movie from beginning to end, which was, like I said, probably in college. There was something about when they said, because by then I knew what the word meant, and I for whatever reason I had rewatched the first one, I think, enough to just kind of go, oh, that bothers me. And then I saw the Bogus Journey, and I liked that the evil thems were the ones who said it, so I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so like way to kind of heal what you did in the first movie with like saying, no, that's bad. The evil Bill and Ted are the ones who were saying it now. because Bill and Ted are older now and they're probably pretty woke, like being in the 90s.
Then Bill
they're
says
in hell.
in hell.
No, Ted says it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Bill says something real. Ted calls the devil the F word, and then Bill's just like, "You ugly,
you red source of all evil."
Source of all evil, yeah.
Which is so not an insult. That's why I love it. He says it with all the fervor of an insult.
Like, I mean, I guess I'm glad
I am stating facts of what you are.
Exactly. And actually, that's what kind of like makes it work for me, is the fact that like, well, that's not worse, but maybe that's the point. I still don't quite get the moment. I wish that it had only been the evil thems who said it, but at least there's a joke that follows it that I can get behind, and you know,
the one thing I can, yeah, I'm not going to excuse it. However, I will say, both incidences, they are part of genuinely funny beats that they can't be pulled from. It's, we love you. Yeah, we love you. And just the idea that like, this is where we're going to yell at you as we kill you. Like,
and I always appreciated the loogies that followed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That felt like,
to me, that's fucking acting. Cause what's the fuck when actors have to pantomime something? It's called
sense memory?
No.
Or what?
I don't know, but there's a thing where like if you're doing a scene and you're supposed to be like holding a loaf of bread. I mean, I don't believe you're holding up a loaf of bread. You're not indication, but you know, anyway, they're selling.
Okay.
He's not watching spit actually travel, but I totally believe
that
he's watching his spit travel.
Okay. I think indicating would work in that instance. They're not indicating that they're watching their spit. They are watching their spit.
And then the other one, I just love that it's such a stupid comeback.
Yeah.
Choose your eternity. Choose your own.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, Ted, no.
Well, I'll use that as a segue to one of the things that I love about this movie is the sheer choice of, again, first-time director for this one. There's a lot of style, and a lot of little practical, again, like the bunny coming into frame, all the twisted angles, the eternity of the Mystery Academy. But also the idea of like when they get knocked down a hallway, you know, your average film, they'd get pushed out of frame and then a stuntman would fall into a wall, but they put them on a rig and pull them, and then we see them like there's so much cartoony framing and the action. It's so
the forced perspective is real. It is so it's always effective. I never sit there. I mean, it always, because I always know exactly what it is that I'm watching, but I never think about it. I'm never consciously going like, that's a really great set. I'm always just kind of like, this is the best personal hell set, you know, or environment, because it makes you feel claustrophobic. It makes you feel exposed. Yeah.
Because
the harsh lighting.
I'm already fascinated in movies. I had, it's so stupid, but the little things that our brains latch onto, tiny things. But I remember like narrow hallways and wide angle lenses. I love distance passing at a certain rate, especially for dramatic effect. And you see, I remember thinking about that a lot in the hallways in Leon the Professional. So much so that if I'm ever in like a narrow hallway, it feels cinematic to me. And the idea that these hallways are not only narrow, but they're low. And that's already such a mean thing. Like you're putting someone in personal hell, but you're also inconveniencing them by making them constantly have to crouch. Like that is a thing. There's a logic to it, and it's not just a choice. It is someone thought about it.
There's a question I wanted to ask you, actually. Can I ask you, or I mean, I'll let you go on if you want.
I have one really quick thing, and then ask me your question.
Go for it.
Another little thing that I appreciated, I thought about when they first drop into, and the thing closes, and they're in the hallway, and then the camera zooms way the fuck out. Well, not zooms, but travels super fast in a hallway. I remember even as a kid going, oh, that's a cool shot. And then I looked at the ground, and there's these little like track lines in it. And I'm like, that's what the camera was traveling on. But then if you look down but a lot of the halls, I think they built lines into the halls so that I don't think about it just in the one shot. it's justified because it's everywhere, which I think is clever. That's
Wow.
fucking smart.
I
Anyway,
didn't even notice that. That's
and even
cool.
at like 12, I'm like, that's fucking clever,
That's a good way to solve the problem. Absolutely.
right? What's your
Yeah.
question?
My question is, because we're talking about personal health.
Oh
Did
shit,
anything?
that's a fucked up question. I already know what.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, at the time or now, does anything like particularly occur to you as far as like a particular room that you would find yourself in?
I feel like 2020, I'm already living in it.
Right? Could be worse.
I'm trying not to get too political here.
Well, okay, then what about when you were a kid? Did you ever speculate when you were watching Bogus Journey about like what might have been like a hell of yours, like watching them?
No. Not to. No, I didn't ever. Even if I did think about it, my first thought would be like my bullies in school, and like I already had bullies at school, so like I didn't like thinking about the idea of like, what if I went to hell and just was in a room full of them. So like I
Right.
already got to go to school 5 days a week. Like I'm already fucking there. Yeah, I don't know. As an adult, I keep thinking of like all these like petty things like that would be in my personal hell. Like I'd go into a room and like people would be eating and they'd be like talking with their mouths full, and I'd just be like, get me the fuck out of here. And then I'd go into like another door, and it'd be a room where like you have to go to a door to go to the next door to go to the next door, and there'd always be people there, and they'd have their hands full with stuff, and I would open the door for them, and they wouldn't say thank you, and that would be my hell, is just people not thanking me for getting the fucking door, you know, like.
Other people is a big
Yeah,
player in my hells. Yeah.
yeah. Again, they're not heavy. One of my biggest pet peeves in the world is not children, grown-ups who cough out loud, like without covering. I don't know how you got to. I see it sometimes. I'm like, how did you become an adult? And no one ever corrected you and taught you to not do this, like in public.
Yeah.
And just how are you 25 or 40 and you? So a room full of people coughing who don't cover their mouths.
I feel like I'm even pettier than you though, because one of mine is just like kind of a cocktail party I can't escape. And I can move in as many different areas though of the party, like even outdoors as I want, but every inch of the environment is populated by people who just want to do small talk with me.
Oh, that's a good one.
A lot of people just ask me, so what do you do? But barely interested, like they're just trying.
I wish I had your answer, because in life, I hate that so much.
I can't do that, and that's a big one. Another one is just like me at work, and all I want to do is maybe get from one end of the room to another. It's still, my hell is always going to be other people. Isolation is just peace. But getting from maybe one end of the room to another, I have something that needs to get done by, the clock is ticking. Maybe the clock is ticking and the deadline just keeps stretching out and I just keep reaching for it in an eternity. But I have to get to the end of the room and people keep interrupting me with stupid questions. Like, or maybe they can't, maybe they don't even have a question. They're just like, excuse me, do you work here? All right. And I'll just be like, what? Just, or they'll want me to like explain things that aren't my job, that, that have nothing to do with me. Like, so how long is the whole mall open for? I'm like, I don't know. I don't work in the whole mall. I only work in this, and our hours are this and this. I'm like, okay, so the rest of the mall will probably be closed around that time, right? It's like, no, I don't, maybe, I don't know. Well, could you ask, who do you want me to, leave work and ask somebody? I mean, that would be, but I can't say that. See, all of that release that I'm giving, I would have to just be like, I mean, I can hide nothing. Like, I feel like people know when I'm getting impatient with them, which is why a lot of people just kind of ask me and then back off. But my face.
I really wish I'd said that, because one of my worst, not worst. I've had real bad experiences, but this.
Sure.
I was on an airplane. It was JetBlue. I had the aisle seat. There were two people next to me. I had my earbuds because I knew it was going to be on like JetBlue, but like I didn't have my own like MP3 player or anything like that at the time. I had a Sudoku book. Anyway, someone's TV started smoking. So for the safety of everyone, they're like, we're going to just shut off all the TVs. So I had like a 3-hour flight next to these two people.
No.
And I couldn't, and they were doing the most, and no offense to normies out there, but one of the things that I hate is just, oh, hi, what do you do? Oh, I'm defined by my job. What do you do? Well, this is what I do. Not, how do you feel about this? Or what are your opinions on this? Or what are your favorite that? But just like, oh, and I live in this city. And, oh, the weather's great. And, like, I listened for 2 hours of, like, their jobs and their kids. And I fucking hated my life. Fuck. So that's... And I hate, if you want to piss me off instantly, is if I arrive somewhere and you go, boy, is it hot out today? Fuck you, I know it's hot out today. We're all feeling it. You're not declaring anything interesting. So there's a room where like, hey, so what do you do for a living? It sure is hot today. Oh, yeah, it is. It is warm in here, isn't it?
I think unnecessary conversation, and it's not like every conversation I have is necessary. Like, I mean, we're not changing lives necessarily, maybe, but I mean, who knows? Maybe we are. But you and I having this conversation, it's us. It's us engaging, sharing, like thoughts about like a set of movies that we really, really like and discussing them in depth. That's important to me because it is. I don't have to justify it, but. That's the thing is like other things like small talk and everything like that. That's the thing. I don't mind small talk if it's a means to an end. If somebody feels like they're socially awkward and they just want to connect with somebody and there's a way in and you can actually move into an actual conversation, that's fine. But when you've got the question man or the question woman, whatever person you have, just like kind of just like, oh, well, that's very interesting. I mean, they have no interest in me. They just want to keep the ball rolling because who knows why. That's I think what I would deem unnecessary conversation for eternity, being forced to engage in it and never being able to full on explode at somebody and just give them the real me, by either whether that's a heightened emotional screaming like, would you just shut the fuck up, or me just going, I really don't care to talk to you anymore, so I'm gonna go.
I'm trying to think of one where like with Bill and Ted, it's very specifically like an incident or a recurring thing, like having to kiss my grandma on her gross lips.
Right.
Whereas mine was such broader. I mean, I remember thinking almost like the cabin in the woods question, like a room full of old people. But I've never been in a room full of old people, so like. But I'll tell you one thing that used to annoy me. It was a very, I don't know if you make this into a room as an adult, but as a kid, I used to hate when. Like your parents are having people over and they're all adults, and then they bring you in. Oh, hey, can you come out here? They all want to know about, or tell them the thing, or do the thing. I'm like, well, I'm not your fucking clown, Or even if it's something like someone happened to bring up a Star Wars and like, oh, come out here. Can you tell them what you told us about Chewbacca? Like how he's from, and you're just like, and then so either it's explaining something to like people who don't fully understand, or also, but just like being puppeteered. Like, can I just go back inside and not be the, because also there's this thing where adults, when you're a kid, people do it still now, but what I'm getting at is that their reaction is to laugh. Even if they're not laughing at you, they vocally laugh. But when you're a child, don't fucking laugh at me. Because like, and then you get older and you're like, well, that's just how they, but I'm like, just stupid shit. I hate, like, there's, like, I'm going to get personal here. I'm very tan, but I'm also half white. So, like, the parts of me that aren't exposed to the sun are really white. And as a kid, my parents used to, like, have me, like, whenever they had friends over for dinner, and they're talking about, like, the sun and the tan, like, oh, you should see our kids' farmer's tan. Come on out. No. And they're like, here, show them. And then, like, and they go, oh, my God, look out. And you're like, cool. I'm just here to be looked at, and it's so that you all can laugh. Like, cool. I'm like 8 or 9, and there's a bunch of adults laughing. That sounds like you put me in a personal hell now. It'd be like 39-year-old me, and they're like, hey, everyone, look at that guy. look at that thing that's apparently normal, and they'd all be like, oh my God, wah, wah, wah. Even without it being malicious. It's just this cackle. It's this obnoxious cackling of noise.
Yeah.
And it's a joy, and it's coming for something that I'm not giving them joy. So like, why the fuck are you? Yeah, that's my personal hell.
Okay. That qualifies. Thank you. Absolutely. My God. That's...
I didn't come out and go, hey, look what I can do. You know, like.
No, right. Yeah. They're just gonna like.
Oh my God, it's so weird. And I can imagine the same thing with people who are like pale or something. Like, look how white this guy is.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, why are you so pale? Like, yeah, you've never seen a pale person before? Like, who gives a shit?
To tie it back to the movie. But thank you for all of that. Definitely satisfied my curiosity.
Okay.
But one of my favorite things about the hell sequence is just their descent into it. The fact that, again, very cartoony, very totally something that would happen to the two of them. And I laugh every fucking time. But just their...
Oh, that was the first trailer.
Give up. Yes.
And I remember not knowing anything about this movie. Well, I remember that they were making a movie called Bill and Ted Go to Hell, and then the title changed. But when you see them falling, I'm like, oh my God, this is totally them falling into hell. Like, because when you hear from the schoolyard, like not everyone, like maybe someone read Fangoria, but like I didn't. But they're making Bill and Ted Go to Hell. You don't know if it's true or not, because I remember after Batman came out, and they're like, oh, Junior Michael J. Fox is going to be in Batman 2. He's going to be Robin.
Right.
You never fucking know. So then the fact that yeah, I love that scene, because to me it comes back to the fact that, and this movie to me exemplifies it more than the other ones, but it is present in all three, that they are all they're forever optimistic, or they find the silver lining to everything. And the fact that one, they're falling, and it's, first of all, it's comedy. It's just a great comedy beat. They scream, they scream, they scream. And also the fact they cut to a wide shot of just like,
yes.
And then back to a close. But every time they cut to that wide, you know, of these two bodies falling. And then they stop and they scream again. Like, it's great. It's fucking great. Here's what makes it extra great, though, is when they stop. You want to play 20 questions?
Yes.
All right. You've just been cast to hell from a seance, and they find the silver lining. That's what's so great.
I would even put it, like, again, evocative of not Beckett now, but Tom Stoppard, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, because they're playing a game of words, or, you know, they're doing 20 questions with each other, but they do it, they finish it like that. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern never would have finished a game that quickly. But and then it's also with this upswing, because there is a kind of, not morose, but just a kind of, you know, like melancholy aspect to the Beckett characters and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. It's very heady and very argumentative. And Bill and Ted are neither of those things. They're just kind of like, you know, they just kind of, places just seem to happen to them.
Right.
They don't really, because I mean, they didn't venture out to go to hell. They thought they had a ruse to go to that seance that Missy was conducting with all those people who wanted to contact all those famous people. And whoa, dude, I'm just like, what is the end game here? What is your plan? And, like, I know what it is, but did you really think it was gonna happen?
And also, like, they don't just go, they do ghosty voice.
Yeah. Oh, we can totally see down your...
Oh, it's so good.
It is.
Can I go off for a little bit?
Go for it.
There's more, like, let me just say first that going off of their eternal optimism, this movie's full of it. And one of my favorite little moments, I think you kind of touched upon this, but they say goodbye to the princesses, and they're like, do you ever think they're going to want to stay over one night? Yeah, our girlfriends are most chaste. It's not, yeah, what the fuck? It's, no. Yeah, like, we accept, and the fact that they've been with them this whole time, and they want to get married to them, and they're not getting laid. They just love being with them.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I think he means it when he says they're chaste. It's not just a kind of expression meaning something else, like
No.
subtextually.
No.
But here's what's great. Yeah, our girlfriends are most chaste. Still, they could, at least they're not dating our dads. First of all, it's a joke, but you found the
Yes.
bright side. There's always a bright side to these fucking two.
And there's a history with it too.
Oh, exactly. So again, it's a joke, but also it's a way to view things that
Yes.
I just adore.
Yes.
And my favorite, first of all, it's my favorite exchange in the entire movie, but it also supports this. Like, you're dead, you're in hell, you're on your way to talk to the devil. When I die, you have my Megadeth collection. Oh, dude, we're already dead. Oh, well, they're yours, dude.
It's yours,
Oh,
dude.
thanks.
Literally
thanks.
slapping my knee. Literally slapping my knee.
Oh, they're yours. Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Just even it's a little mix. It still works though, but they're fun fact in the original version, and I know that they did film this or film. There's not a lot of deleted scene footage from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, because the impression that I've got over the years is that some of the things they filmed partially and then decided there's a lot of this movie that we got to cut. We're going over budget. We have to cut. We have to go over budget.
Oh wow.
They even talked about, like, I think Keanu Reeves at one point when they're filming called it Bill and Ted's not excised journey, but like a word that means excised or cut, like omitted. Bill and Ted's omitted journey.
Okay.
Because like there's a whole car chase finale that like there are photos of that I know they probably started filming, and then after 3 days they're like, we're fucking done, because they talked about they'd come into set for the day and like what we're gonna shoot, there's a giant X through the page, like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. But there's snippets. There's like snippets of the finale, and there's like snippets of them when they first get to hell, and I wonder how much was ever cut or not cut. Anyway, long story short, when they first get to hell and they land on a rock, there's a demon there, and the demon like takes this rat and eats it, or he pulls it out of his mouth, but their job is to smash rocks, and he gives them these like mallets, and you see all the other people floating on the rocks crying out, and there's a whole thing where they're smashing rocks, and then he's like, hey, Bill, I kind of like this. Oh, I broke one too. Like they find it, like they enjoy breaking rocks.
That's them.
And
that is so them.
And I'm pretty sure when their rock is getting pulled by the chain, and then it's just over the shoulder of the two of them, but you hear Bill go, oh, I kind of like this, and then the fire bursts out. I'm like, I guarantee you that line was from the other scene, and they just ADR'd it here.
Right.
I guarantee you also them talking about Megadeth, that the record collection, that's ADR. There's a lot of ADR in this movie, but like good ADR.
Yes.
Or at least or the payoff is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, Eternal Optimists, I love that. I'm gonna do what you did. So when you started off, you were talking about your experience. First of all, I already went into this knowing everything, because the Scholastic book clubs.
Oh yeah.
School. I got the novelization and I read it.
Right.
Before I saw the movie. I remember reading Ninja Turtles 2 before I saw the movie. If it was something I loved and there was a novelization, like I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, because then so much of it's different from, because again, they take what they think is their shooting script and then they hire some to write it into a novel. And then a lot of times when things are deleted and changed, Batman Forever I read the novelization of Batman Forever. And a lot was cut out. So
yeah.
I had a good experience, but instantly when the movie started, besides the Denomalos introduction, when we get to the Bill and Ted University, my first thought was like, oh, like it's so, like even being in the 90s, I'm like, this is so 90s. Like with their foam neon colors. I wore a bunch of neon shirts too in the early 90s. One of the things that I appreciate about Bogus Journey, and actually all three, is I love that each movie has its own sense of production design. There isn't a consistent thing, much in the same way that the Gotham of Batman Returns is nothing like the Gotham of Batman. Same director, same star, completely different.
Yeah.
And I like that for Bill and Ted, like each movie has a completely different visual look. It to me was like back before was it Christopher McQuarrie directed Mission Impossible 5 and then 6. Each Mission Impossible movie had a different director with completely different tone, completely different look. And Bill and Ted movies, not only do they look different, but they each have a slightly different flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here for the fact that like the opening scene just doesn't feel like what we've seen from the future. Also, the fact that in the future, that scene that we go to, they look like adults. And this is a university. Like like I can't limit myself to just that one future and saying, well, it all has to look like that. I have to accept that, like, maybe at this school, this is how it looks. I did find it a little weird that Rufus was a teacher, but also like, well, we never really said what he was in the oh, sure. But also I just thought, how cool, like Rufus teaching history, and they're getting, like, I didn't overthink it at all. All I thought was, oh, they're bringing people from history, like the last movie. This is how we teach people now. Isn't that fun? Like Bill and Ted did it. This is how they're going to learn it. That's fun. It's just a nice, because the fun thing about Bill and Ted, the number one thing that I love about Bill and Ted is it is not the same movie as the last movie.
Yeah.
You had a time travel comedy, and you made a sequel to your hit time travel comedy, and you don't do time traveling in it. Like a little bit at the end, but like it's not a time travel sequel.
No, it's like a realm of consciousness.
You don't use the phone booth. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
You cut out your
no.
So it's not the same thing. But here's like for a minute, they're like, hey, remember the phone booth and the historical figures? We're doing it, sort of. There you go. But yeah, it's nice having Denomalos as a villain. That was my first Joss Ackland. I think about a year or two later, he was in Mighty Ducks, and he was such a nice guy. And I was like, oh, this guy's good, because I thought he was such a dick in Bill and Ted. And he really doesn't talk like that. That's okay, great. Yeah, I something about do you ever see a movie and you get fascinated just by like the world, the vibe, the tone, the aesthetics?
Yes.
I was so fascinated that the phone booth didn't have the umbrella antenna.
Yeah.
It had gack. And I love that Rufus just had a guitar and fucking like yeah. But there's a lot of nonsense. Like you get older and you're like, he gets pulled by the guitar cable? Whatever.
Well, it makes me wonder about that climax with the car chase and everything like that, because it doesn't detract from the movie for me at all, but the climax does seem rather abrupt.
Yes.
It's just kind of like, I mean, especially with the evil Ustas, because it's like, oh, we've got our, good robot Ustas, and then, yay, we won the day. And it's like, oh, that was easy.
Yes.
But I can rationalize it by saying like, well, okay, you've got the universe's most brilliant scientists to build robots to defeat these evil robots, so yeah, they better do a good job, like in an economical
instantly.
amount of time. Yeah, so I really don't have a problem with it, but I did, now that you've mentioned the climax, makes me wonder, was that something that was supposed to be
let's get into
there?
it. The original and okay, let's take it back several steps. This is the part where we talk about a lot of the deleted material, everybody. So two things about when they go to Missy's house, when they fly in through the window.
Yes.
Thing one was originally, she asks, who are you? And they reach up to their face and pull the zipper down.
Yeah.
There's photos of this, including in the cards. And Ted pulls off and it's Bill underneath. And Bill pulls his skin and clothes off and it's Ted underneath. He's like, you see, I'm really evil Ted and I'm really evil Bill. It's an expensive gag. But what's funny is after they knock Missy out with the evil breath, and then they're carrying the princesses and they answer the phone, you can see in the final cut the little rubber and clothes of the Bill and Ted costumes on the ground. Like they're still in the shot.
Right.
Like you just, like if you ever look at it and go, why is there Bill and Ted clothes on the ground when Bill and Ted are right there? Also, fun fact, originally to defeat Missy, they punch her in the fucking face. I'm glad they cut it.
Yeah, me too.
Which is why she kind of does this. And it's one of the things where he punches you and then goes to like knock you down.
Oh, I see.
By cutting the punch, they're like, well, he can't. Again, ADR.
Evil. Yeah. Yeah.
Loop in a line because you never see him say it.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a funny. But that becomes another Bill and Ted like, whatever.
I
Evil breath.
appreciate it. I was
No,
like, I'm
evil
here for
breath.
it.
Sure,
Yeah,
whatever.
I'll buy into it. Absolutely. It's a good instinct because you don't want to think about it too much. And I'm just like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Robots from the future. Why not?
When they ask like, who are you? They lift up the shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time they lift up the shirts over at the Vasquez Rocks, they just lift up their shirts. Second time, you see them open and the chest cavities open. And when you're watching it, why are the chest cavities opening for no reason? But originally, later, and it's been that shot has been repurposed from later. After they leave, they literally walk out the house, lift up their shirts, open up their chests, and pull out these canisters.
Mm-hmm.
And they open the canisters and leave them on the ground, and like smoke comes out. So now Bill and Ted are in the van. They're trying to make the robots on the way to the Battle of the Bands, and stopped in the middle of the road that had come out from the canisters. The canisters made their evil fears come to life. So there's this exaggerated, super huge like Colonel Oates, this creepy old lady in the wheelchair, and this like 8-foot tall evil pink bunny of fucking eyes and stuff.
Wow.
And like they commandeered I don't think they shot much of the actual, but it's in the book and it's in the comic book how like they get in a car and they're chasing alongside the van and the bunny gets off and like rips open the roof.
Oh shit.
And there are photos of like the roof ripped in a bunny. Like there's and then the whole gag is they have to face their fears. So like Bill kisses his grandma and she goes away.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and then like Ted apologizes to the bunny about and then the bunny goes away, and then like I think they like go to Colonel Oates and they park their van. He opens the door to get them, and they like are having like a tea party, and like, do you want to hang out with us and have some tea? And they just treat him really nice, and then he like shrinks back into his little canister form.
Oh my gosh.
And then they get to the Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
And immediately when they get out of the van, the robots malfunction and run away. Oh. So Bill and Ted go and confront evil Bill and Ted.
Oh, shit.
And then evil Bill and Ted like, we're just going to kill you all over again. And then they just have a fight, and they beat them to death. But since they defeated death so many times, he gets to keep bringing them back. So they come back to life, and then they get the shit beaten out of them, and they die again. And that brings them back to...
That is fucking amazing.
Right?
And then, I'm so mad.
And then
oh my God, that's amazing.
Then the evil robots run in, and I think they still punch them. But you could tell that, like, because there's some footage of them in a fight, but you could tell they're like, so here's what happened. They ran out of budget. And also, like, I think Bill and Ted 3 and 2 have a lot in common in that they're doing a lot with what they're given. Even though Bill and Ted 2, I think, costs almost double the first one. Like, the first one stayed within its restraints, whereas 2, the third act feels hampered and slapped together. Because you could tell that there's a climax originally with the evil robots, and in the theatrical cut, they just walk in, punch them, and then they're gone.
Right.
Whereas originally there was a fight with them, and then the robots come in, they punch them, Bill and Ted catch their heads, Denomalos shows up. And on the side of their heads, there's like a little red button that's like a self-destruct button. So they like hit the button, bowl them at Denomalos. Denomalos explodes.
Okay.
And I feel like at some point, based on how many days they were shooting and how much money they were going through, they're like, yeah, we can't, I don't know if we can shoot the explosion and all that shit. So how about we write like a new ending, and it's the ending that we have. And then I don't remember it being in the book, but in the comic, like the epilogue is that Denomalos is on a rock in hell, tethered by the chain.
Oh.
And he's got the 2 evil robots with him, and that's his hell. Is like he's stuck with these 2 fucking
right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh. Okay.
So, but when I love Bogus Journey.
Me too.
There's a lot of strengths, but I won't deny the last 10 minutes are a little messy. But
mean,
I think they make do with what they can, and I can't
yeah.
deny that Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves still show up and give the right amount of charm, and they carry
Oh
us
God.
through what's essentially just a very abrupt, like I like that the I like that the evil robot's like, holy shit, I think may have met our match. Like fuck you, punch, head punch, it's over. The cage is
Yeah.
on Anomalos and Wedgie, and we're out.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I don't have a problem with it because also, like I'm like kind of like, okay, if we can wrap this up, like I mean, I don't have to
yeah,
see. Also, because it seems the way it's shot, what we have, it seems like everything's very very tight. It seems smaller, so
yes.
I don't need an action scene that's like like in really really tight like that. It doesn't feel like it's got like an incredible size to it, so it doesn't feel like they were building to. I mean, most movies would build to something larger probably, but it's also part of the charm of the movie because it's unexpected. It's not it's predictable enough that it's like, of course they'll win the day, but it's not
Yeah.
predictable in the sense of like, oh wow, defeating him was really easy, yay, villain dead. Now they're gonna go learn how to really play, and
Yeah,
Bill's gonna come back with his easy top beard and it's gonna be amazing.
That's another thing about the movie that I find again, all three movies, these characters are procrastinators, um, and especially with this one, they uh they they do shortcuts, but because Excellent
Mhm.
Adventure isn't a shortcut, they just hear you guys talk on stage.
Right.
But like, oh man, what are we gonna do? I don't know. Let's just go to the future where we can play. All right, and then they just, well, not go to the future, but they come back. It's a
Yeah, after
they
learning,
cheated.
yeah.
They cheated. It's a shortcut. And then in the third movie, like, what are we gonna do? Well, let's go in the like they forever like maybe suddenly learn how to play, but like they don't really fucking do it the way you think they're gonna do it at the end of the first movie. They're still gonna do their shortcuts.
I
Um,
call it using a tool that you have at your disposal wisely.
sure.
Can I tell you what
However,
my yes, go on, go on, go on.
I'm not done. No,
Yeah.
but I do think it's funny that their time when they're traveling is
Hmm.
happening. So they go and practice in the future and come back, and they're allowed to leave and come back to the same place. I watched the
Hmm.
whole previous movie where they don't do that, but I found it funny that they get in the time machine, go away, and come back exactly at the same point. I'm like, whatever, it's Bill and Ted. We're not supposed to think about the rules of their time travel, but we're not only do we not think about time travel logistics, but now we're not even supposed to think about their own time travel logistics because it's a gag that
Exactly.
we're doing at the end of the movie and we're just having fun and whatever. Yay. Um, but the movie is so much doesn't make any sense. I love when they're not only they're in the evil ones are coming to the Circle K for the first time,
Hmm.
and it's just a phone booth dropping out of the sky, and he goes, "Aim for the cat, dude! Aim for the cat!" And he goes, "Oh, I'm
Oh,
trying." How are you trying? At no point was there a joystick in this thing, and there's not and you even see him. He's not like touching anything. You go,
he's
"Oh, I'm trying."
leaning. Giancarlo's, he's leaning.
Shut up.
He's trying to guide it. You know what I focused on? The fucking cat, and I thought, they're evil. That's what you're supposed to focus on in that moment. That moment is supposed to tell you
Oh
they
yeah,
want,
and they see the
want to hit the
yeah,
cat.
and they see the cat
They're
on the street, and they
assholes.
try to run the cat over with the car.
They're
There's
assholes.
so
That's
like
what that moment is about.
I agree. I know that's what the moment is about. But again, here's the thing: when I point these things out, they unlike other movies where I point out things and go their criticism. For this, they are it's a feature, not a bug. You know.
Mhm.
Uh, but I love that Miss Wardrow is clearly shaped like Pam Grier and could not fit a George Carlin inside of her, let alone a George Carlin with all the. But I love that when she unzips her body, that like George Carlin's massive robes are sticking out. Where
It's
did
the future. It's the
No
future, dude. Come
nonsense.
on, just be
No.
excellent to each other.
No. Here's the thing. I've spent my whole life going, this is great. This is the one time I really allow myself to like bring this shit up. And anyway, I have more to say, but I'll let you go.
I just do you know what my favorite line? You were talking about your favorite exchange in the movie. Do you know what my favorite line of dialogue in the movie is? That's probably a no. My favorite line of dialogue.
Wait. Just give me like what, like first act, second act, third act, or
I'd say third act. It's in heaven. I'll give you that.
oh, never mind. Then
I think I just really like hearing it, and then I tried to say it after I wrote it down,
Wait,
and I
let
had
me
a lot of fun
guess.
saying it.
Let
Yeah.
me guess. Smokey and the Bandit 3.
No.
Smokey is the bandit.
No.
Butch and Sundance, the early years.
No, but you're warmer. Did you assume that the most brilliant scientists in the universe would be from Earth? I heard it and I was gonna like, it's so absurd. It just gives me so much happiness. And then the first time I tried to read it, I'm like, I mean,
he
it
gives
gives me
the great William Sadler,
yes,
who has
yes.
this, to me, this infinite amount of range. Because if you look at him like in Die Hard 2, you wouldn't think of him as a funny guy.
No.
You look at him and how grim and grave he is, and how worn out he feels in Tales from the Crypt Present Demon Knight. Like, I don't think that guy. I mean, there are fans, obviously, but I don't think he gets enough credit for fucking talented he is.
Even how boring and straight-laced he is in Iron Man 3 as the president. I mean,
yeah. Absolutely.
It's such a nothing role, and there's no reason at all for him to be there, but he's there and he's memorable, and I'm just kind of like, oh, there you are. And he's a perfect, boring president.
Was he in Grindhouse? Am I misremembering that?
I haven't seen Grindhouse.
Ever? Okay.
Yeah.
There's two. One of them's fuck. Oh, never mind. I think I'm. Yeah, it's not him. Never mind. Sometimes I get Michael Biehn and William Sadler and Jeff Fahey kind of confused. In later years, they've all had small roles in like they've all aged into these sort of cool grizzled men, and they all have like supporting roles in certain movies, and like
kind of everything.
Their appearances blend together, and I think I'm thinking of Jeff Fahey in Grindhouse. But anyway, here's what I want to say about death. I came to really appreciate this when I got into my film nerd years, my early 20s, my 19 through like 22 phase, that like first of all, they made a movie, the fucking balls on these two guys to be like, hey, we're going to make a sequel to your time travel comedy. No fucking time travel in it. 2, we're going to kill off the leads in the first 15, 20 minutes. They die and go to heaven. They go to hell. They meet Martians. Their butts, and they merge and they fight. Like, if you pitch that, I would tell you, get the fuck out of The Office. I love big swing movies. This is one of the biggest batshit big swing movies ever. And the fact that it also has, in my opinion, a little more, like the first movie's funny, but the second one has like a sharper wit and these little beats. So it's a wittier movie. But then to do all that, but also go, we want to do the Seventh Seal. We're going to do this whole Seventh Seal gag with fucking death and chess. And it's a joke that I think maybe 2% of your target audience is going to get.
Right.
And I really respect the fuck out of them for doing that.
Yeah. Literally,
in 1991, when you're making a Bill and Ted movie for a certain, I just think that audience, I, as a kid, didn't get it. My dad had explained it to me. But as I got older, I really just came to appreciate the fact that, like, holy fuck, we're going to do a Seventh Seal joke. Like, okay, great. Fucking all the respect to you for that. I haven't felt that way in a long time until very recently when I watched Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And Silent Bob does the whole Glengarry Glen Ross, Alec Baldwin monologue. And I'm like, for people know Glengarry Glen Ross. It's not that obscure. But I have to wonder how many Jay and Silent Bob fans
know Glengarry Glen Ross.
Know what the fuck reference this is.
Yes.
Probably about 10 to 20% of them know what the fuck this scene is. And I remember, I think we were at the same screening in the theater.
Yeah.
Like, when Silent Bob like cusses, when he goes, fuck you, like, but that scene didn't land as hard as the rest of the scenes did in that movie. And that was kind of my evidence. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah. I was laughing alone at that.
Like when he says,
particular
"I'm from
moment.
Mitch and
Yeah.
Murray," like no one's laughing at any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my sister and I were laughing, and I could tell there were a bunch of people. It's like, oh, they're not going to get it. They don't know what Glenn Ross. They don't know what the Glengarry leads are. But
so yeah, I love that they did the Seventh Seal, but with fucking Battleship. I love
and Clue.
Yeah, and Twister. But what an incredibly Bergman-esque, but then obviously more so, but just a simple design. We didn't do prosthetics and make him look like Franklin J. Skeletor. He's just a dude in some makeup with some black, you know. The idea of quite literally, he's ominous. He's got that accent.
Yes.
There's nothing funny about it. They Melvin him, but you know, like, oh, your shoelace isn't tied. Oh. That little is the first hint of it, but just that best 2 out of 3. And then as we keep going with the movie, he gets to like open up a little more and more and more, so that we actually create a character that's like petty and needs validation and like wants to be like, I sent these guys to hell, but like I want them to fucking like me. So much so that like, what about my butts? I helped with the wigs. And reaping burns a lot of calories. But I love how petty. I help with the wigs.
Yes.
I push the cart. What about my butt?
Yes. No, but I even love, I mean, like, again, like right on the heels of the Seventh Seal thing, of the, shall we call it the Seventh Seal sequence. That positivity just coming in like, whoa, you got a lot to learn about sportsmanship. Oh, shit. Oh, God.
Oh, you dummy.
What happened to me? I'm gone. There I am. Okay. Damn it. I laughed too hard. Okay. But yeah, you got a lot to learn about sportsmanship. And then it's adorable. I mean, and also, again, they're bringing their values with them, you know, wherever they go. It doesn't matter whether they're no longer traveling through time and now they're traveling interdimensionally or through different mythologies or what have you. They're still carrying, you know, their sensibility and yes, their optimism, but even just like their I would argue morality, or even just like a sense of decency as far as their exchanges with people, because that's true. Like, I mean, they're notably, they aren't often miffed at stuff for very long, and I feel like the angriest I see them in any of the movies is when death just keeps, like, when they keep winning and death just keeps making them go all in. They're just like, because it's unfair, you know.
Right. And when they're witnessing what the evil robots are doing, there's a lot of
but I mean, but that's like a personal violation. That this with death, it's just like, it's just cheating. Yeah. It's just like, this isn't how you treat people. Like, you set the rules and I keep moving the goals, and that's not fair. But you know what? What are we going to But what are we going to do? Because we're probably, you know, they've already also kind of accepted, like, we're probably going to win. Because they're no longer angry at one point. They're just like, that's right. 7.
I was about to say, this is one of the greatest, again, good actors. You know, chances, you know, I don't know how many takes they did for that one reading, but, you know, you're very familiar with, you know, the moment before and creating a history, and the fact that I'm talking way too long about such a little beat, but it's a little beat that really works for me. The fact that he's like, best of 7, I really feel in that moment that he's already played all these other games and he's tired. Right. Of it. Whereas in reality, he went to fucking Crafty and had like a taco and, you know, and then action. Like, I believe the experience. It's great, and it's still such a funny beat. And the fact that death is just damn right.
Yeah, justified. Absolutely justified in his cheating. Oh, and one other purely aesthetic thing that just really make a meal out of this sequence. This was one of the first, I think I had a crush on Keanu. I think I've talked to you about this before. I think I had an accidental crush on Keanu for a long time that I was never really conscious of, because I remember seeing some hot guy in that Drew Barrymore Babes in Toyland revival. And I remember that. And I remember watching it just being like, whoa, who's he? And then, and never really finding out who he was. And then I saw Bill and Ted, and you know, he just looked like a big old scarecrow. Then I watched this movie, and it was just one sequence, and it's when they're playing Battleship. And for the first time, Keanu's hair is doing kind of what Keanu, not Ted, but Keanu's hair usually does, to just frame his face beautifully. God, he looks fucking hot in that moment. And I remember when I saw it, again, little teenager-y me is sitting there going, oh, what's going on there, Ted? Wow. And it stays like that for a while. So I just remember the camera kept going to him. And also, you know, like Bill's no longer wearing a midriff and he's got a little backwards hat on, and yes, it's cute, but it's not like my thing. So yeah, I started like, then I saw Point Break, etc., and it wasn't, and Speed, and it wasn't until many, many years later when John Wick came on the scene that I was just kind of like, I think I have a Keanu thing, and it was articulated. And then I looked back and I go, oh, I think I've always had a Keanu thing. So it was nice, but it's nice to kind of watch that moment. It was kind of like, this was the first time I was conscious, like that I was watching Keanu and that I was watching Keanu be hot. So it's nice. It's, you know, it means something personal to me. Anything else?
Well, speaking of someone that's hot, I remember as a kid being disappointed that it wasn't Diane Franklin and the other girl, it was Elizabeth and Joanna.
Even though I like them.
I do actually like them quite a bit. I really like, I wish, if anything, it'd be nice to see more, but I love when they're having that little party. You know, just the four of them, you know.
Yeah.
And how excited they are. Like, yeah.
And especially because we get their dads back, so, and we get Missy back, so there is continuity, but it's not, but then we see them, and that was another thing, like where in that first few minutes of the movie, as I started watching it from the beginning that very, very first time, I was like, that's not Monique, you know, like those aren't the princesses from the first movie. And that was another thing that just kind of made me go like, God, I thought I liked this movie, you know. So and as I was watching it again, like with that kind of perspective, I was just kind of like, that was the problem, and now I can just accept it. I'm just because I like the princesses, but I don't really like the future. But it's, and it's not even because it had to look like the 80s, but I just thought it looked kind of slapdash, and you know, it didn't have a huge budget, and that's fine. But everything with Bill and Ted looks amazing. No, but everything that happened with Bill and Ted traveling to different worlds, like that was on the same budget, but it looked amazing. So I think I was just upset that it didn't, for me, line up as a consistently kind of like, you nailed that. You nailed the future. You nailed hell. You nailed, you know, I couldn't say that. I was just kind of like, you nailed everything except for the future. But like I said, it doesn't piss me off. I'm just kind of like, oh, it's the Bogus Journey future, you know, and I shrug and I move on. But something about Missy and their dads, and it looks like you thought of something.
I mean, I already said this earlier, but I've spent so much of my life, like not so much of my life, but so much time has passed in my life where Bill and Ted comes up. And I just rant and rave about how it's not a typical sequel, and how it's such a bold left turn. It doesn't just give you another time travel, because that's the obvious thing, right? Bill and Ted get time and they go do something else. But I like the fact that they don't also regurgitate the same jokes, and even when they do, it's fun. Like, that's a funny thing. Missy divorced your dad, married mine.
Yes,
that's funny. It also feels organic to the scene why they're there. It doesn't feel shoehorned in. I like seeing after Bill fucked her in Bill's bedroom, I'm so happy with him being like, oh. So I like that they bring back the Missy joke, but they don't regurgitate all the beats again. It's not, sometimes, like, I think I mentioned this in Scream 2, that like, I think Scream 2 is a good sequel. Yeah. Meaning that, like, if you're going to be sequely about something, this is how you do it sequely. Bill and Ted's a great sequel in that it doesn't do any of the sequel shit. It plays its jokes smarter. It goes a completely different direction. It's bold. But also, they don't regurgitate all the same gags. In fact, they don't, like, One Booth is fucking gone. They go to Circle K, and not once do they go, like, evil things are afoot at the circle. None of that shit. I feel like I had another. Because you're done and we're gonna move on to 3 in a moment, I think, right?
Yeah, sure.
I have to give props to Hal Landon Jr. Because his Ted.
Oh,
sublime.
Another thing where you're just like, they had this idea. And they got to do this idea, and he nailed it.
Well,
oh my God!
Not only did they have this idea, It worked in The Exorcist 1 and 3.
Yes.
But yeah, to come, I mean, the other guy, he's clearly just like, oh, I'm a dude.
Right.
But Hal
It was
Landon,
fun. Yeah.
I don't know how much you know about him. He is a staple of LA and Orange County. I don't think he does it anymore. One of my little regrets in life, for a period every year at the Orange County Performing Arts Center, now the Segerstrom Center, he used to play Scrooge, and they did Christmas Carol like every holiday season.
Oh
And
my
it used
God.
to be like a thing, like every year Hal Landon does it, and I think he eventually stopped. But I always wish I'd seen him do that.
Yeah.
But so freaking talented and shows up everywhere throughout movies. But I mean,
Yes.
and good at playing the Ted's dad type. But I mean, if let's say you didn't know his range and you just watched Bill and Ted 1, you never would have guessed that he was so capable in Bill and Ted 2. I
Yeah.
totally possessed my dad.
Oh, yes.
Also, I love all, in both 1 and 2, they're really crafty with how they transition in and out of effects. And you'd see this all the time, especially like Back to the Future Part 2. I don't know why my brain thought of this, when the DeLorean is returning to 1985, and you can tell there's a light post past.
Yes.
And it's the model, and then it's the real car driving off a ramp.
Yeah.
And in Bill and Ted 1, there's so much where like the phone booth, like they'll just go into frame and like a light will flash on people, and then we just cut back to smoke, you know?
Yeah.
And
I know. Yeah.
And Bogus Journey does a lot of, you know, like the like Evil Bill's walking with Evil Ted, and you could tell like sometimes you'll see the guy behind them, like that's not Keanu, but then as well as pass out of frame, we've now switched shots and it's them. And I can't help think of the police station when Hal Landon and the Total Recall guy walk out, and then a bus or a truck passes, so they bump their heads, and the visual effect comes out, and then when the bus clears the frame, it's just Keanu and Alex Winter shaking for a couple seconds.
Yes.
Really, really crafty shit. Simple.
It's fun.
I love that as the history of cinema keeps going forward, some of the oldest tricks in the book work. We still have stuntmen falling and then falling behind a thing, and then the actor pops up into frame. You know what? Still works. Like,
as long as they commit to it, you can still be totally charmed by shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
falling. Those two dudes are just in a black soundstage with fans on them. Yeah, and you know there's fans on them. It's fucking great. It's great.
Yeah.
I adore the fuck out of this movie. Let me say this. Let us end this video, and then we will come back and ask people to come back for our talk on Bill and Ted Face the Music. Thanks.
Later.
Be excellent to each other.